welcome to the Purlsbeforethyme knitting podcast. I'm Elise. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you're a regular viewer. So if you are new here, I'm a knitter and I live in Norway and I love all things yarn and fibre and knitting. So first I'm just going to have a little update what I've done knitting wise and how my projects are going, and then I'm going to talk about scrap yarn inspiration and patterns I think I would like to make with my scraps. So firstly, I have a finished object, which is what I'm wearing. It is the Roots and Shoots sweater by Teti Lutsak. It is a really fun pattern. I think it's a very elegant top. It is not blocked, which is why it's a bit sort of curly at the edges. I haven't really found the time to block it, but I will. I did wear it to work today like this and it was fine. But yeah, so I cast this off over Easter and it was really satisfying because I've had this on the needles for over a year. So yep, it's done finally. And I really like this so much. The colour of Nude Hedon I had for the main colour is, we've got a bit of remaining here. It's a shade that came out a couple of years ago called Langusta. And what's really lovely is like, it looks very different in different lights, but like overall it kind of just looks like a sort of pale, sort of cool toned pink. But when you look closer, it's actually like a kind of lilac-y colour with like flecks of like really warm gold through it. I think it's so beautiful, and yeah, I really like this. And I didn't need very much for this sweater because I held it single. So I held a single strand of Nude Hedon with a strand of silk mohair. And then the other colour I used was Mening, which is this warm brown, which is also very nice. So I'm very pleased with this. And I actually got to wear it today because I woke up and there was like a ton of snow outside, which was a big surprise because it's been a bit warmer here lately and all the bulbs were coming out and all the flowers were out. And I was like, oh, okay, winter is finished. And then I opened the window to go to work this morning and I was like, oh, like it was completely white and there was at least 10 centimeters of snow. But it's been quite fun. So I moved recently, as some of you know, and I now have this big window right here with my knitting nook, which is really nice. And this looks into the garden. And the other day I was sitting here knitting and it was dark outside. And then suddenly I just look up and there's this deer, like maybe a meter away from the window. And he's just looking at me and I just looked at him and it was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then I found out there's actually a family of 3 that come here and eat stuff in the garden. So that was a really fun surprise. And they came back today in the snow, so there's like their little footprints. And Silas, and my cat, he was, yeah, very fascinated by this. So it's very nice as well, even if it's cold. Yeah. So this is, I'm very pleased with. And then the other thing I'd done is, so over Easter I got some knitting time and I finished the body of my Magnolia bloom sweater, which is also in Nude Hedon. This is held in 2 strands together, and I took a bit of a risk with this because I only had 310 grams of this shade, and I read through lots of Ravelry project pages for Magnolia Bloom and I saw someone had made this whole sweater with like 200 and something grams, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna risk it. And I still have a whole like 60% of a plate left and I just have sleeves, so I'm optimistic about getting full sleeves out of that. So yeah, this is going really well. I really like the shade. This one is in shade Pupeline. And then the thing that I'm excited for, so I'm going to finish that soon, but the thing I'm really getting very geared up for, even though it's cold and wintry, is summer knits. So I have at least 2 summer tops that I want to start cast on and cast off before summer. So, but this one was left over from last year, but I have now, this is the Pie Camisole by Creadia Studios. And it's this beautiful, very fine gauge summer top. And I picked up for the neckline, and now I'm on, maybe I've got 4 or 5 rows left, and then I do a tubular bind off, and then I just need to finish the body and do some ribbing. I'm using single-stranded knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the shade Quince, and it's very nice and bright and yellow, and I'm really excited for this because I've had a lot of sort of fails with Pure Silk before, and with this one think I've got it right. So you're supposed to have negative ease, so I went smaller on the size as well, and then hopefully when I do block it and the silk does sort of open up a bit more, it'll be like a really good fit. So I'm really hoping that happens. I haven't tried it on yet, but I think that's what's going to happen, so I'm excited for this. So that's all I have kind of on my needles at the moment. But yeah, I was going to just talk about some scrap yarn projects because I have all of this beautiful scrap nude hidden, and I actually have quite a big scrap stash. So in the move, I kind of realized, I have like a big bag of like either like 1.5 skeins or like half a skein of lots of different things. And I was on Ravelry browsing, thinking, what can I do with all of this? So I thought I'd share things that I really liked. So I've made a little bundle on Ravelry, and I'll link it down below if you just want to go straight to have a look, but I can talk through them. So I think with scrap yarn, there's a few sort of pattern categories that I think lend themselves very well, and one of them is toys. I don't make a ton of toys, but I've seen some patterns that just make me really want to make some toys. One of them is by a designer called Aftenstrik, and I really like her stuff. I think I've talked about her before. She's a Norwegian designer, and she does a lot of small projects as well as like larger projects, but so she has a lot of small like children's toys and things, and she has one called Svanungen, which means signet, and it's just made in like grey or off-white. I think it's sport or fingering weight, or I think you can do whatever gauge, it doesn't really matter, it's a toy. And it's this really sweet pattern where this little like swan baby with these little closed eyes, and I think it's really darling and nice. So that's something I think is very beautiful. And it doesn't take very long. I think you could make that in a day quite easily. And then she also has another pattern, which I guess it's not a toy, but it's toy adjacent. It's for a mobile called Lillebrors Uro, and it's like this mobile that hangs down, and there's these flowers, and then there's also a bee in the middle, and I think that's very nice. She also has another mobile, which is actually a hot air balloon, which lends itself really well to scrap yarn. But I haven't put that on my bundle, but she has a lot of beautiful things in that kind of category, which I think are nice. The other toy that I got very taken by was Frog and Toad by Christina McGowan on Ravelry. And so, yeah, it's just Frog and Toad from, I think, Wind in the Willows. And they have these little clothes and jackets and trousers. And one of them has like a striped, like Victorian bathing suit. And I think that's like so sweet, and it wouldn't take much yarn. I think that would be a really fun scrappy project. And even if you don't have scraps for the whole thing, you can like use scraps in the clothes and stuff. So I think that's really lovely. And then finally for toys, there's a designer called Boy Knits World, I think he is on Instagram, but his name is Jake Hensler, and I followed him for a while, and he's very well known for making, I think it's called like city block blankets with like all the houses on the front of like Copenhagen or Amsterdam, like very high effort projects. But he also does really, really, really nice smaller things. So he has a whole like mushroom series and stuff, but he has a toy which is, I got very taken with it when Mandalorian came out, and there was like the child, so like the little baby Yoda thing. So he made a little baby Yoda pattern that is so sweet. It's like for any Star Wars fan in your life, or just someone who thinks this is cute, because it is very cute. So I really like that one. The other pattern that I put on here that is also Jake Hensler, which I think is a really good scrap yarn pattern, is he does seasonal garlands. So I think he has an autumn garland, a Christmas garland, and an Easter garland. And so most of it is like leaves that you knit along the back, but then you have like little eggs or mushrooms, or I can't remember exactly what they all are, but it's all like little ornaments. And I think they're very, very beautiful. And what I really like about knitted like Easter or Christmas decorations is that you just take them out every year, and you know, they last forever and they can like be given to people. So I mean, I do have a few of the knitted, I've made a few of the baubles by Anna and Carlos, and I think they're very fun and they come out every Christmas. But anyway, that's the seasonal garlands by Jake. So I didn't really know what category to put this in, but I put it as like accessories, and this has gone pretty popular in Ravelry the last week or so, and it's called the, okay, I'm going to butcher all these pronunciations, I'm sorry, but it's called the Rybka pouch by Zofia, it's a Polish name, Ratasiewicz, sorry, and it's these little fish. So you knit a tail and you knit a little pouch, and then you have a drawstring around what is like the mouth of the fish. And there's lots of like varieties of this. And this is an excellent scrap yarn pattern. You could use all your colors. You could choose one color. You can do stripes. You can do all sorts of things. And I think I kind of want to just make like a whole bunch of fish. Where I'm going to find the time to do all these fish, I don't know. But I'm very optimistic about all the things I would love to make. So I thought they were so cool. I've never seen anything quite like those fish before. So I think that's just, like, I think she suggested you could use them as like a lip gloss holder or as a pencil case. And I think they make a really good gift as well. So that's those. Otherwise, I think, oh yeah, I've had a couple of slipper patterns on my favorites for a while, and I think they would do really well with like leftovers. And one of them is the Keto Slippers by, oh, this is a Finnish name, and I'm gonna also struggle with this. It's Ronja Hakalento. Oh, so bad. Maybe it's Leto. Ronja Hakalento. And they are these colorwork little sort of slip-on slippers. They, I think, are made in, yeah, not very much yarn at all, less than a skein of each colour, and it's fingering weight. And the colour she uses in the sample is a sort of squirrel red with white, and I think they're very nice. I don't think they would take long to do, so I kind of want to do those with some scraps. I think that would be very sweet. The other pair of slippers that I put them on here because you could use them for scrap, but you need a fair bit of scrap, or you could use like lots of different colors for the soles and then just use a single color for the top bit. But they're these like, they're called Nomad Slippers by Wool and Beyond, and you make a double knitted sole, and then you make the sort of strip of honeycomb brioche with, I think, an I-cord edge around the top that wrap around the foot. And I think they're so like elegant but also beautiful. And I went through a honeycomb brioche phase a while ago, and I have one design that I actually used honeycomb brioche in. It was like a headband that had these like braids around them that I thought were really nice. So it just reminded me of that, and I was like, oh, I haven't used honeycomb brioche in a while. I want to play around with that. So, and yeah, those are the slippers I would make with my scraps. Otherwise, I think obviously mittens, anything small is very good for scraps, and the mittens I've been quite drawn to are Sander mittens by Maja Åkerström. They're just these really fluffy colourwork mittens. I saw the one I've saved in my favourites is actually a project that someone made. I think they used Letlopi in 2 shades. They just look super snug and warm, and so I think Nutiden would work really well for those. So I think that would be nice. The other mittens that I've had on my list for ages are the Ulla mittens by Susanna Muller. They're just very textured, and they have this beautiful thumb shaping. So they are very like, I think those are also quite smart. You could wear those to like an office or something as well. So I like those very much. And then the 2 more patterns I have. One is a sweater that I think lends itself very well to using scraps of all your colours, and that is the Chlö sweater by Midori Hirose Knits. And she is a powerhouse designer. She does amazing stuff, but I've seen some really beautiful projects of the Chlö in all sorts of colours, and like even like colours that you wouldn't think are like go together super well, but they end up looking really, really nice. So that's the Chlö. And then the final pattern I have, which is by Yamagara, and it's a free pattern, so that's always nice, and it's called Chlo Cushions, and they're just little small cushions made in colour work in Newton that are that's just stuffed, and I think she uses them for pin cushions, but they're just these very sweet little colour work motifs, and they look like little pillows. You've seen the Hex Puff blanket, it's kind of that kind of scale, like little, this kind of size that you stuff. But yeah, they're just super cute, and I think I might end up making a few of those. Not that I need a million pin cushions, but I just think it's nice to have little cute cushions. The other thing I thought you could do with them is, instead of stuffing them with stuffing them with like rice or beans or something, but any kind of grain that you can then microwave. Then you can have them as little hand warmers in your pockets, because if you're like me and you get cold hands, I think that would be a nice way to sort of, if you heat them up in the microwave before you go outside, then you have warm hands for a little while. So those are all my top scrap projects at the moment. There are so many other things that, you know, could have been on here, but, you know, maybe I'll make another one of these some point when inspired to share other things. So I really hope everyone is having a good time, and that you've all had a good Easter break if you've had a break at Easter. I ended up going skiing in the mountains, so not downhill, I went cross country. And I don't go skiing very often, so you forget how much energy. So even though we didn't go on very long skis, we came back afterwards, and I felt I've done a lot of work, you know. But yeah, I really had a good time, and I rested and I knitted, and it was great. So yeah, please share your favorite scrap pattern ideas. I'm always looking for scrap pattern suggestions, because especially if they're small, because then I can feel like, oh, I want to do that, and I'll do it in a day. So yeah, it would be really nice to hear what you guys like to do with your scraps, and do you keep them? Do you sell them? You know, I'm thinking of selling some of mine because I have quite a bit. So yeah, anyway, until next time.